So the next job that I'm doing isn't actually in my unit. I'm in Brad's unit now, so I'll show you what Brad's bought himself. He's got rid of his TCR car and he's bought himself a Porsche GT3 Cup car. So at the minute he's got some guys from a Porsche team down, stripping it and putting it all back together, cleaning it and replacing any worn bits for him. He's got Simon from the Tinter doing a wrap on it for him, which is this side. The other side hasn't been done yet. And then he's been doing all the plumbing in my workshop for me and stuff. So I said that I'd help him top and tail his engine. So he's got the engine out. He's put it on a stand ready. He's cleared me a bench, and while it's quite late and I'm by myself, I thought I'd come and mark it all up so I know where everything goes, take some photos of it and get it in bits. So the first thing I'm going to do is, just with the centre dot, is just put a mark on every part of this so I just know where it all goes back together. I'm going to take some photos with my iPad as well. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's the first Porsche engine I've done. So yeah, it'd be quite nice to see what's inside one. And the car's a really pretty car. So this is Brad's engine now, all stripped down. I've got to take the rods off the crank, but I'm going to do that one by one. Good news is everything looks absolutely immaculate in it. So we've taken photos of everything, so we know how it all goes back together. We can tell that it's been apart before, but we're going to go through the cylinder heads, clean it all, new rings, new bearings, grind the valves in, new stem seals, new timing chains, and then start to piece it all back together. So today I'm doing Brad's Porsche engine for him, or bits of it. So the first thing that I've done is gone and fetched the cylinder head off one side, the block off one side, and the crank assembly. So I've stripped the cylinder head. I'm gonna get all this nice and clean. It only come in for top and tailing, but the exhausts have got quite a bit of guide wear there, so Brad's just gone to see if he can get some guides for it, and we're gonna just start by covering it in some chemical, trying to remove all the carbon from it. I'm going to clean the head face up, hone the block, clean the block face up, and then strip the conrods off the crank, polish the crank, get that through the cleaner, and then replace the bearings and just start to bolt it all back together so we can move forward with it for Brad. He wants to go testing at the end of the month. The next job on Brad's 911 engine is to gap the piston rings. So Brad supplied the piston rings from Porsche. I'm going to start with the oil control rings, then the second, and then the top. I'm going to do the right hand bank first, get the rings dressed on the pistons, get this all washed off, and then next thing really is start assembling it. So I'm back working in Brad's workshop today. I'm getting his Porsche engine back together for him, but Simon has been out, who's called the tinter, we all use him for our windows and everything, and wrapped his car for him, and I must admit it's looking pretty trick. So on his engine, I've had all the casings apart, completely cleaned them all up, so they've been in the cleaner for ages. I've polished the crank journals, new big end bearings, new big end bolts. These have all been cleaned, so it's all prepped nice and clean, and I'm going to just start to assemble the bottom end back together. Front bearing on and the new O-ring, the new front seals in. I've just been and fetched that little peg that locates this bearing here, so that's going in, and now I can lift the crank assembly in. I just can't deny giving me the best time. My body's shaking, shaking every time you get into my mind. Like a fire burning wild in my heart. Take me far away in the dark. Only you can show me how to come alive. I feel shivers down my spine. I've been waiting for a long time. So I need to make you mine. Think I want you in my bloodline. I feel shivers down my spine. I've been waiting for a long time. So I need to make you mine. Think I want you in my bloodline. In my bloodline. The sun is rising. Right guys, I'm working back on Brad's Porsche GT3. I've got the bottom end built, and trying to fit the 3 pistons into the barrel. Oh my god, so difficult. And I searched the internet to see if there was or YouTube to see if there was a cheap way of doing it, and no, there wasn't. Straight away we found a company that was building one, and they used this special bit of kit. Brad then made some phone calls around the people that he knows in the Porsche scene, because he's well into them, and we then wasted the next 4 hours listening to people that I don't think we should have done. We should have just carried on the way we was heading. Straight away, like I say, we found the video straight away, and well, we tried everything to try and do it all the wrong ways. We ended up having, or Brad ended up having to order this kit from Stormski Racing in America, and the service that they provided was exceptional. I'll put a link to their website in the description below, but he ordered it, I think it was Tuesday night, and it turned, no, Monday night, and it turned up Thursday from America, all the duty paid, delivered to the door. So I was really impressed with that, and the quality of it is lovely as well. So to use this, that's a 100mm ring clamp. This is a 102mm ring clamp that comes with all the spacers and presses and bits and bobs. So we're going to fit this around cylinder 2. We're going to send cylinder 2 down into the bore, and then fit 3 and 1 into the liner straight away, and then press number 2 liner in with a couple of new seals. So the first thing for me to do is to get the ring clamp on the piston and fit number 2, which I've got the ring clamp on, so now I've just got to fit that. I've left one of the clips in, So all I've got to do is slide the gudgeon pin in and fit the second clip. It's already oiled up. Just got to get it at the right height for the gudgeon pin. Just like that. And then fit the clip, which is a little bit tricky because of the angle that we've got to work at. Okay, that makes it a bit easier for me to fit the clip. And then it has a little ear there. So that just goes into the side of the piston. In fact, I'm going to just put a nice bit of clean rag down there in case I drop it. And then I can just roll the clip in with my finger till it all clips in perfect. And then what I'm going to do is just with my little screwdriver, just make sure the clip is all the way home, because we do not want that bugger coming out. And that's it, on to the next stop. So I'm back in Brad's on the GT3 RS, or whatever it is. We've got this one side on, using Brad's bit of kit that he bought from MSUK Racing. So that's all that side done. I've now got this side ready. I've got the tool installed onto the rings, clamping the rings. I've got the piston dropped inside the block now. I've got both titanium conrods pointing up, so now I can get the two other pistons in the barrel, in the two outer barrels, give it a clean off, changing the water seals in the barrel and one on the liner, and then getting ready to put the barrel on the onto the casing. Hopefully it'll go okay. We had to have 2 attempts at this, getting used to the equipment that he bought, but second attempt it all went in good. So kind of getting there now with this. So the next job that I've done on the Porsche is to fit pistons 3 and number 1 into the barrel, and then I've carefully got to drop that on, leave a space, slide the gudgeon pin through each one and get the clip in through here and through here. It's bleeding tricky, so we put a little bit of cloth in here just in case the pin falls, just to stop it falling right into the engine, because if it falls into the engine now, we're in trouble. The next tricky stage on this Porsche is to actually get it where we can get the pin through. Because the gudgeon pin boss is so high up on the piston, there's not really a lot of room from the top of the gudgeon pin boss to the bottom part of the oil control ring. So we've got to get it where we can slide the gudgeon pin in, so we need to see all of the boss, but we don't want any of the oil control ring coming out. So it's a case of really delicately just tapping the piston down until we can just get to the top of the gudgeon pin boss, which I'd say we're about there. So I've oiled up the gudgeon pin boss in the piston, I've oiled up the bush in the conrod. It's a titanium conrod on one of these Porsches as well, so quite a nice bit of kit. So what I'm going to do now is just ever so carefully lower the barrel to roughly the right point, that way, I'd say. Very carefully, just give it a jiggle and a wiggle. There we go, we're there. Okay, so that's that one in, and what I'm going to do is just put something underneath there to stop the barrel coming down too much. And then I can get the clip in. So I'm going to fit the clip in here, and then that one's done. I've then got to carefully turn the engine over and then fit the clip in through this side on this one. So that's it, that's the rings all in now, and I've taken off the band that holds them all together. It's a real fiddly job to get the oil control ring in, but it's all done. So the last thing I've got to do is, with the bit of kit, is just really gently just squeeze the liner all the way home. There's 3 seals, so it's a bit tricky to push it in. So you've got this proper little press, which does make the job a lot easier. I also put a little bit of red rubber grease around the seals just to help them slide home. That's it. I'm using 2 of the old head nuts to clamp that down, and then what I've got to do now is get on with putting some inlet guides in the cylinder heads, so we'll go and record that. So out come the guides on the Porsche GT3. I'm using my Carmack machine again for this. I've set all the tooling up and everything, so now it's just a case of pressing the old guide out like that. So now what I need to do is spin both the cylinder heads the other way round and press the new guides in through the top to a certain height, which I've measured from the spring platform up to the top of the valve guide. Where's the other cylinder head? On this cylinder head here. So what I'm going to do now is 14.5 mil. So what I'm going to do now is machine a little bit of aluminium, which is 14.5 mil, so I can press straight down, so I've got a hard stop on each one of these. I'm going to do it out of a new bit. I'm going to make a new step or block to step against, just because I just want them to be bang on. They are bang on anyway with this machine, but it's easier for me to just make something like that. Well, I'll have a measure up of them first, because if I've already got it, then I don't need to make a new one. The other thing that I'm going to do is make sure that this here is a good fit against the inlet seat, so it presses against it. So I'm pressing the first set of guides into the cylinder heads. I've set my stop. I've got the bottom of the press supported against the valve seat, and now I'm just bringing that down till I hear the pump strain a little bit from when this part is hitting this part. So I'm going to bring the bottom part down, take off my stops, move them over to the next one, slide the cylinder head over a little bit, bring the press down, take the pressure, bring the bottom of the press up slightly just so I see the head move like that, and then press down. That's it, one more to do, and then that's this cylinder head ready for me honing the valve guides out. So I fitted the valve guides into Brad's Porsche cylinder heads, only inlet guides, it didn't need exhaust. And then the first problem we've come across is the valve doesn't fit anywhere near. So what I'm going to do with this is remount the first chunk of material out the bronze and then hone it to finish. So I've reamed out the first bit by hand, and now the valve fits the guide, but it's still just a little bit too tight, and that's a reamed finish where I want it a honed, crosshatch honed finish in there. So I'm going to use my little diamond valve guide honer for this, which is that. And then it only needs a little bit out, but what I'll do is I'll use the honing tank from the cylinder hone, so it lubricates the guide and the diamond as I'm honing. And what I want to do is just feel some pressure on the hone. Yeah, it feels so much better, but it could just do with a little bit more clearance. A little bit more. What we don't want is the valve stem sticking in the guide. So that's all the valve guides now honed to size. So the next thing for me to do is to cut all these seats, give the heads a skim, wash and then build.
When we were racing, Dad wanted to have the brake
So that's the first one of Brad's GT3 cylinder heads ready to refit onto the block. So this has been refaced. The head was slightly warped. It was warped just down here like this. We put new inlet guides in it. We've cut all the inlet seats 3-angle, ground all the exhausts in and reconditioned the all the valves. New set of stem seals, hour or so in the cleaner, and it's ready to refit. So I'm just on the second one of Brad's Porsche cylinder heads now. I've cut the inlet seats. I'm just going to see if the exhaust will grind in. Hopefully they will. So that's my next job. I've reconned all the valves. So I've shot blasted them, polished the stem and then refaced them. Two of them had a very slight little bit of wear on one side, but they've come back in a treat. So yeah, so grinding them in now, vac test it, make sure it's all good, and then skim it, wash it, get this side back together. So on Brad's cylinder head, we noticed that the engine's been rebuilt before, and these are the little spring platforms that sit underneath the springs. And on one cylinder, we think that they might have lost one of the spring platforms because they just had loads of shims underneath one of them. So I've just got a little bit of steel bar and then just made that one there as a replica of one of the original ones. So now we can get the head built and get it back on the engine tomorrow. So I'm working in Brad's today and I'm trying to get his engine finished so the guys can come and get it back in the Porsche for him. Let me just move this back a bit. So we've got one side, the right side of the engine, the cylinder head and everything on. I had to make a spring seat shim for or platform I should say, for the left side because there was one missing off the cylinder head. So I did that yesterday. I've got the head built up now. So yeah, I just want to I want to try and get it done because he wants to go testing in it. And it's also kind of overhanging now, this job. And because I've never done one before, why it's still all really fresh in my mind, I just want to get it done and finished. So I've got to drop the gasket on it. I'm going to drop his cylinder head on it that I've reconditioned. Make sure it's all nice and clean. I've cut the seats. It's had a new set of inlet guides, which you've watched me do. I've cut the seats, ground it all in, back tested it, give it a light reface. Brad's bought all new Porsche stuff for this, so it's all new chains, bearings, rings. Unfortunately, the timing kit that we need to set the cam timing correctly, the one that Brad's ordered, which I'll show you, is this thing here, but it's not right for his engine. What this is for, I don't know, but it ain't for Brad's. So what I'm going to do is, we know that for this particular engine, the cam timing should be 110 degrees, fully open on the inlet and the exhaust. So what I've done is, on my Performance Trends camshaft analyzer, I've ran up the cams with a centre line of 110 degrees to give me a lift at TDC. So what that's done is basically gave me these details here. So lift at TDC is 149 thou on the inlet and 130 thou on the exhaust. Now, let me take them paperwork with me. So what I'm going to do is, to make it quick for me setting the timing, is set the DTIs up and set the time into that figure, and then from that figure I will then put the protractor on the front and get it so it's at 110 degrees. So the cam timing will be absolutely bang on. It's just a little bit more long-winded than putting in Porsche's bit of kit to do it. But there we are. It's just another little challenge that we've got. I actually can't wait to see this one up and running and racing. Brad's going to race it in the, I think he said, Brick Car Enduro or something like that. So yeah, it'll be nice to see that done. Carefully get the cylinder head on. Also looking to make sure that there's no bits of debris or dirt on anything. We don't want anything that won't allow the head gasket to clamp down properly. So that's perfect now. Next thing is the cylinder head. So we just drop that on really carefully. So now the next thing to go on are the head bolt washers, which are over here. And then what I'm going to do with them is put a little bit of ARP grease on the seat of them and on the top, so when we start to torque the head down, it actually pulls on the thread properly and doesn't try and rip the metal of the aluminium or the or the head bolt washer. It also gives me the opportunity to make sure that I get them the right way up. And then with some just ARP grease, I'll just coat the top and bottom face of them. So I torque the head down to the initial torque wrench setting, which is 30 Newton meters, and then you have to let the gasket settle for 15 minutes and then undo in the reverse sequence, which that's what I'm doing now. So there's no tension on the gasket at all. And then I'll just quickly just check to make sure that they're all loose. And then the next procedure is an initial torque wrench setting to load the gasket and then degrees. So I'm going to use my digital torque wrench for that. The initial setting is 20 Newton meters. And then with the torque wrench, definitely no sort of pulling on the torque wrench. I'm just letting the torque wrench just roll along the thread almost. I don't want to over torque it, and I want the torque wrench setting to be really, really accurate. The good thing about these snap-on digital torque wrenches is they actually count how many times it's reached that initial torque as well, what I've set it to. So it's a good inclination or good thing to look at it to know that I've done all the nuts to the same torque. And then what I'll do at the end is just go down all of them to make sure that they're all at 20 Newton meters, because the center ones, by the time I've torqued all of it up, the center ones sometimes back off a little bit. Yeah, you see that one's down to 14 Newton meters. That one as well. So the next thing to do is to just let the torque wrench sit still while I set it to angles. And the rotation angle that I need is 120 degrees. And what I'm doing is just marking these nuts when I've reached 120 degrees, just so I know which ones I've done this time. the other thing I'm doing is I'm also watching, because as well as showing me in degrees, it flashes up what torque I've reached. So I'm watching to see that they've all gone to a very similar torque. And the great thing about these torque wrenches as well is you can ratchet them. The gyroscope means I can ratchet the angle down. I don't have to do it in one complete swing. So if you was working on the car somewhere under the bonnet and you was restricted, this will help you get around the restriction. And there we go, that's all torqued up. So I'm going to power down the torque wrench so it switches off and doesn't sit in standby mode. The next thing really is to put the cam carrier on, which holds the hydraulic followers as well, but that's in the wash at the moment. So I'm just going to check that I've got that down to the torque wrench setting, which I have. Yeah, so that's all ready now. The cam chain housing is in the wash. The camshaft housing and follower housing is in the wash. So the thing I could do is I could go back over to the right side of the engine and start doing the cam timing, but I think what I'm going to do is just try and do that all in one hit. So now I can leave it really. I can go and get on with some other work while I wait for that. So Brad's Porsche engine is going back together now. We're 90% there. I did film me doing the cam timing, but unfortunately the SD card had a bit more corrupt data and we can't get it to download. So we've missed that bit out, but I've set the cam timing to 110 degrees on all the cams, and then I've ran through the engine in firing order just to make sure that everything is in sequence and is working as it should be. What we're doing now is just putting on the bits that was on the engine when the other guys took the engine out, just so it's exactly as it was when we got our hands on it. So I'll just time lapse these last few bits going on, and then it's ready for the other guys to fit the engine back into the car. So that's my job done on Brad's engine. That's completely topped and tailed. New inlet guides. Brad's bought all new bits for it, rings, bearings, water pump. We've gone through, checked the oil pump, new oil filter, all new gaskets, set the cam timing, and that's it. So all that's left to do tomorrow, Brad's team is coming out to fit the engine back into the Porsche. So they've got to fit the crankshaft pulley bolt because they've got to lock the back of the engine up and torque that up. And yeah, Simon's finished doing the wrap on Brad's car, so it's looking really sexy at the minute. Brad's just spent £5 grand on a set of tyres for it, so it should have plenty of grip. Have a quick walk around it. I'll also video it racing once it's all done and the fire up, so you can see the actual finished result of it. But it's looking stunning. Definitely a lot better looking than what it was when it first got here. Don't get me wrong, it was nice, but it didn't look like that. It's yeah, it's really cool. So thanks for watching this video, guys. I'm sorry that there's a proportion of it missing due to the SD card having corrupt data again, but there's a fair bit on there, and yeah, we'll follow the progress of Brad racing the Porsche. See you later. So Brad's car's all back together now. Big thanks to Ben and JJ from Ben Sharp Racing. The car's back together, well, apart from the suspension on the rear, the engine's in, the gearbox is in. They have fired it up, so this isn't the first time firing up video. But yeah, the car's looking banging now, since the original graphics on it. We've got to get some graphics for Grace Engine Developments done to put on the car ready for his first outing. But it sounds fantastic. I'm going to get Graves to fire it up. We'll go to the back so we can get the full effect. Go on, Graves. Is there a fuel pump switch for it? No fuel pump at the moment, so here we go, hopefully this time. There we are. So good luck to Brad as soon as he goes racing, and that's the Porsche video done. All good. See you later.